The future Ducatis went on a hell of a tour as we also say goodbye to number 04. Welcome back to Motorsport 101. Hey guys, welcome to episode 394 of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Dre Harrison. And in the final part of our triple header weekend, we're talking some bikes, baby. And yeah, we had a hot one at MotoGP, the Grand Prix of San Marino at Misano. And it's funny, we talked about this a little bit before, that or Sasha said that, a member of our Discord server said that Misano, he reckons, is arguably the best all-round racing track in the world. He might have an argument. Like, I'd certainly entertain a conversation because this place just produces great MotoGP races every time, without fail, and this was no exception. We had a fantastic fight for the win. We had a lot of shall we say, the dropsies regarding quite a few riders in all the classes, as a matter of fact, across the board. Sergio Garcia, and he had a good few in Moto 2 as well. And, me having to cancel the Jackass concert because Jack Miller binned it from the fucking lead.
Say the line, Dre.
Death, taxes, Ducati tucks the front.
Yay!
There it is. And poor Bez as well was another one who binned it from a podium spot. High side in the Duke. What else is new? But we had a fantastic race, and yeah, a lot to talk about there. The title race, is it back on? We'll be talking about the return of a certain rider. Of course, that rider is Cal Crutchlow, who will be back next time out at Aragon. Oh, and Marc Marquez was here too. That was interesting, to say the least. We'll talk about that a little bit as well, and his future. And, well, for lack of a better term, we've got some ethical questions to ask of the series as well, because a lot has gone down in the last week or so, which you would argue isn't good for bike racing at the moment. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. First up, our set of co-hosts, as ever, the great Cam Buckley.
Great.
He's
Who
all right.
are you and what have you done with Dre Harrison?
I don't know. He's locked in a cabinet somewhere.
Damn. Oh, more bikes. I'm always down for that. And, man, Honda might actually have some hope going forward. Certainly not after the race, but after the test.
He's
Certainly.
back.
Yeah, like so much hype for the return of Cal Crutchlow. Who'd have thought it? And also, we got RJ O'Connell. Hello, man.
Hey, it'd been a while since I've been able to sit down and watch a MotoGP race for most of its entirety. I gotta say, really, really good stuff. And these two are going to be teammates next year.
Oh yeah, baby. We'll get into all of that in the next 40 minutes or so. It's an intense one. We also get to talk a little bit about the retirement of the great Andrea Dovizioso. We'll talk a little bit about him in the next 15 minutes or so. So all of that in a loaded episode of M101. We're going to pack it in real tight here and get cracking. But places you can find us, if you like the cut of our jib, we're on youtube.com/motorsport101. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. If you want to find our personal handles, you can. Me at Harrison101HD, RJ at RJ O'Connell, and Cam at C Buckley 917. You can follow us on there. We're on Instagram at Motorsport101pod for clips, previews, and content updates, and that's all that fun stuff. And you can find all of our content on our website, motorsport101.com, including written reviews and analysis from me as a bonus on everything we've seen this past weekend. That's Formula One at Zandvoort. We've got it's IndyCar at Portland, where I gush over Scott McLaughlin. And, of course, more on this very race you're listening to right now. A lot of stuff to get through there, and not all of it fun, unfortunately. But, hey, needs must as we get into it. And if, of course, you really, really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of our episodes before they go out. There's also Discord benefits, and if you back us at the $10 level, you can listen to these shows live as they're being recorded. So thank you to everyone that backs us on there. So, without further ado, let's get into the Grand Prix of San Marino.
Trey, I regret to inform you, he is still undefeated since becoming a criminal.
They just can't beat this guy. He's on the run from the law and he can't be stopped. He's a fugitive. Count him. 4 wins.
Running from the cop speed.
God, get out of my head, Cameron Buckley.
Count them. It's 4 in a row for Francesco Bagnaia. History made. The first Ducati rider to ever win 4 Grand Prix in a row. It never happened until today. Well, today means this past week, but you know what I mean. It's the first time a Ducati rider has ever won 4 Grand Prix on the bounce. And this was also special. It was also the closest finish for a Premier top-class race since Silverstone 2019. Remember that one? That was Alex Rins going around Marc Marquez at the final corner and winning by half a bike length. Money.
Oh, that really had to feel good for Alex Rins at the time.
As a guy who hates the Marquez family, he reveled in it. He watched him bleed as he crossed the line. Like, it's honestly, to this day, it's still the most angry I've ever seen Marc Marquez for not winning a race. Seriously, it's a hell of a trip. But yes, just 0.034 of a second covering Francesco Bagnaia, and runner-up on the day, Enea Bastianini, who was also announced in the last 2 weeks, will be Bagnaia's teammate at the factory Ducati team next season. That was confirmed just before Misano. Apparently, you can now cut to live imagery of Jorge Martin kicking rocks as we speak, out of sheer frustration at not getting the top flight seat.
Well, the opportunity was there. It just
didn't work out.
Just didn't work out this time. But also, Rossini's tribute livery to their founder himself and his '87 title winning bike. Oh, that's spectacular.
Yeah, the late great Fausto Grassini. They had a tribute livery to him at their home race. It's a beautiful white. I love the black polka dot with the number on the front. It's very old school, beautiful livery, and yeah, it beat the tribute livery curse, which is great to see. I mean, yeah, it didn't win, but it got about as close as anyone's gotten to actually beating Bagnaia since the summer break. But yeah, Bastianini.
I thought he was going to get it out of the last corner.
Like, I love that on commentary, Gavin Emmett on BT Sport was screaming, "You don't pass at the final corner." It's. I think it's actually even more acute than a right angle. It's very, very hard to pass at that final corner and outbrake somebody that much. And Bagnaia is the one. He tried. Bagnaia is just disgustingly on the brakes, but he tried to square the corner off and it nearly worked. He just ran out of road. It was closer than you thought it was going to be going over the line, but Bastianini a narrow second. Maverick Vinales, his 3rd podium in a row, by the way, in 3rd, becoming leader quite quickly the way it's going at the moment. Aleix Espargaro still not quite there in terms of pace. He had to settle for 6th on the day, but title implications. Bagnaia has now overtaken Aleix Espargaro into 2nd.
He controls his destiny.
Yep, because with Fabio Quartararo only managing 5th on the day, it means that Bagnaia is now only 30 points behind Fabio Quartararo in the championship with 6 to go. And because there's only 5 points between 1st and 2nd on the scoreboard, that means if Bagnaia can run the table for the rest of the year and win all 6 of the remaining races...
That's easy enough.
Yeah, simple task. He will win the World Championship. He controls his own destiny for the first time in a good while. So, yeah, this is going to be a fascinating fight going forward, especially when you consider Aragon is next. Bagnaia won here last year. Beating
in style, I might add.
Yeah, beating Marc Marquez in a straight dogfight for the win. And Quartararo hates Aragon. It's his least favorite track they go to. He can't stand it. So this is going to be a fascinating race. Gentlemen, do you think this title race is back on?
Well, ultimately, that's up to Pecco. Because What is Pecco Bagnaia? Well, he is the embodiment of win or DNF. Dre, drop that stat line for me.
The last 9 races in MotoGP has either been win or DNF for Pecco Bagnaia. There has been no in between. One of them wasn't his fault. One of them was Catalunya.
One of them was getting headbutted.
Yeah, by Taka Nakagami at Catalunya. Besides that, you can't ignore the 2 crashes under pressure that he had at Le Mans and Germany that has shaped this championship to get to this point. This is a problem. And, well, it's the win it or bin it style of Bagnaia. Can that hold up over the course of an entire season? That's, I think, ultimately that's going to boil down to this, in my opinion. And it's weird because I've had more faith in Bagnaia in the last run of the last 4 than at any time during his Grand Prix career. But we saw this last year. This is a carbon copy of last season for Bagnaia down the stretch.
Nuclear run mid-season.
Yeah, won 5 out of the last 7, but blew the title when he crashed, getting away from Marquez at this very Grand Prix last year.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's not going to be good enough.
Yeah, he was just about to break Marquez in that fight for the win and then crashed at the penultimate corner, turn 15, and it gave the points for Quartararo to win the title outright and led to a Repsol Honda 1-2 finish. But, that's the problem with Bagnaia.
He's really far away.
That was, that was peak Bagnaia in a nutshell. I know some people want to say he's worse or better under pressure. I think there's an argument you could have either way on this, but that was such a brilliant ride for Bagnaia this weekend.
He looked like the best rider in the world.
He did.
He looked like the dude that Cam would not stop gushing about by the time he finally got that first win on the board.
Yeah,
he's finally achieving his form.
The thing with Bagnaia is that it's what have we seen out of him and all the Ducatis? Because how many Ducatis hit the deck?
I want to say 3.
Good God,
Zarco's wasn't his fault.
Yeah, we're not going to blame that one on that was entirely a separate thing. But that's just it. The front tire tuck is never far away. And all it's going to take for all of this title hype to derail is one instance of Pecco hitting the deck. Because Fabio, for better and for worse at this point, he may not win the race. At this point, he's struggling to get on the podium, but he is going to maximize whatever's on the table for that bike on a given weekend.
Yeah. He said it after this race. He could give no more. He said that 5th was the absolute limit. And he was beaten straight up by Luca Marini on last year's Ducati, which is wild to say the least.
Wait, Luca Marini, Valentino Rossi's half brother? That's crazy.
I know.
I never knew.
Yeah, also crazy. The Maverick Vinales redemption arc is in full swing, baby.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Podiums, and my man's still rocking him up, Maverick, and riding really well.
He keeps getting a little better every weekend on the Aprilia, and Aleix Espargaro, still probably suffering a little bit with the injuries he suffered, unfortunately, in the test that followed this race. Broke his pinky.
Ow.
Yeah. Not ideal.
I've been there. I've done it.
Ow.
It's never fun.
And to put into perspective just how ridiculous this Bagnaia win was, I think a lot of people forgot just how devastatingly fast Enea Bastianini is at Misano. He got this Grassini gig off the back of 2 podiums here last year on a GP19, a 2-year-old bike at the time. That was really what put Enea Bastianini on the map as a MotoGP rider. And that final lap, he nearly tucks the front and bins it at turn 4, trying to lunge into Bagnaia at that complex. Almost crashes, loses about 5 bike lengths, gets it all back and tries a last corner lunge and set the fastest ever race lap of Misano in the process.
It was
I would disagree. He was completely out of control over the limit in the best way possible.
Yeah, it was
every corner was a crash. He just didn't drop the bike.
Yeah, it was, I'm going to win this race or crash trying mode. Where, you know, it's like a 50-50 chance he bins it at every corner, and he just didn't drop it and got away with it. But even so, an incredible, one of the laps of the year from Enea Bastianini, despite the fact he didn't win. He was over the limit, beyond it. It was ridiculous. And he had to go that hard to try and win this race. And it still wasn't enough because Pecco Bagnaia at the moment is that good.
Yeah.
You don't outbreak Pecco Bagnaia at this point. Like,
yeah.
Under pressure, it's weird because when he folds under pressure, it's usually he just, you know, it's not like bike to bike or in combat like that. He just crashes because under pressure, bike to bike, he's just impervious.
He's probably a better pursuer than we give him than he is a front runner.
Yeah, it's a weird mix where it's like at times he folds under pressure, at times he's brilliant under pressure. It's a very weird mix. It's peak Bagnaia. It's the I don't quite know where the line is Bagnaia, and it's, can he find it? Is there a suboptimal scenario for Bagnaia coming up where he has to take the points? But you want to think there's one of these coming, but he's had chances to and cashed in at every race we've had since the summer break. So it's like, is there a suboptimal scenario for him at the moment? Because Ducati,
we're going to have to wait and see, if when one confronts him, because we've seen him be unable to take the points. It's very 2015 Marquez-esque in that sense, where it's always just 100% all of the time. If he's in a situation where he's not in a position to win, if he wants to win this title, he can't drop the bike.
Yeah.
Right.
He's going to have to proverbially pay tribute to the man that he paid tribute to on his helmet this weekend by proverbially kicking the field in the nuts and not doing the thing which, among the many other grim things that Dennis Rodman did throughout his career, includes the thing you got in trouble for over the summer break, Pecco.
You dumb motherfucker.
Great.
Honestly.
Fantastic self-awareness.
Yikes.
Yes, for those who didn't see it, he had a Dennis Rodman tribute helmet this past weekend, and which, you know, for those who don't know Dennis Rodman, in a strange sense, he was kind of progressive about, you know, embracing who you are as a person.
And a fantastic member of a championship-winning team, it has to be said. But
of course.
Had so much baggage.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to, a lot of journos absolutely destroyed Bagnaia for this. I know Matt Oxley called out Bagnaia in person during the weekend to talk to him about it. And Bagnaia gave us the often trotted out line of, I'm admiring the athlete on the court rather than off the court. You know, it's...
Where do you separate the two?
I don't think you can at this point when it comes to sports discourse, because unfortunately Dennis Rodman has done many horrible things in his life, including multiple arrests for domestic battery from all 3 of his ex-wives, multiple accusations of sexual assault that he settled out of court, and as RJ alluded to, multiple incidents of drink driving, which again is ironic because Bagnaia got done for that in the off season, which is just mind-blowingly dense.
Somehow really. Not the scummiest member of the old NWO from back in the day, as it turns out, but
somehow. Yeah.
Levels to it.
Can't see the bar, it's too low.
Yeah, like it was a great piece about this from Matt Oxley, which we'll talk about a little bit more as well later on in the show. It was, if you haven't read, like, Oxley stuff is generally fantastic as it is. It doesn't need any recommendation from us, but this
one, give it to you anyway.
Yeah, but this one in particular on Motorsport Magazine was a fantastic piece, talking about the fan survey and talking about what fans really want. And as a guest interview in that piece, he talked to Matt Bishop, the great Matt Bishop, the current communications officer for Aston Martin Formula One, openly gay, and obviously he's spoken many a times about the difficulties of being openly gay in one of the most macho environments in the world, a Formula One paddock. And he's worked with the greatest names in Formula One history over the last 25 years. And Oxley asked him straight up, if Lance Stroll or Sebastian Vettel wanted to wear a Dennis Rodman tribute, what would you say? And he said, I would strongly recommend against it.
Matt Bishop is not the reason why Aston Martin is struggling right now, or for that matter, Sebastian Vettel.
No, like, he's the man. And if Matt Bishop is saying that in good faith, then I would listen, because he's a good man, and he's one of the good ones in a paddock that doesn't have many of them in that sense. So yeah, that kind of says it all. What the fuck, Pecco? Don't be stupid.
It's a good win, though.
It's a good win. Great win. Fantastic win. Brilliant performance. But my God, like, foot in mouth. Jesus Christ.
Self-awareness Hall of Fame, other than today's tweet from the official Les Mis account that was deleted. And I'll say no more than that. And we'll segue us right the heck along to Andrea Dovizioso. 22 seasons in the game. From 125s to 250s, all the way up to the big boy bikes. 3 times a MotoGP World Championship runner-up. This was his last race.
What a career it was.
The only regret that I have is that he wishes he had the sad going out that Michael Jordan had with the Wizards. This was not
the last 2 seasons full-time that we saw of Andrea Dovizioso do not speak to the extraordinary quality of a rider that he was throughout the rest of his career, because, I mean, winner on 3 different bikes. Most people don't get the opportunity to even win on 2.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps his biggest crime as a rider is that he wasn't arguably the greatest freak talent that we've ever seen on a motorcycle, Marc Marquez. And even then, gave Mark more than his fair share of bloody noses along the way.
Yeah. Dovi is 4th, I believe, on the all-time appearances list. I think it's 345, something crazy like that. Very rare to get someone in the 300 club in their Grand Prix career.
It's him, it's Valentino, and there ain't many others. 346 races across all categories, 24 wins, 103 podiums, 20 poles, 22 fastest laps, a 125cc World Championship, and of course, runner-ups in 250 and MotoGP. 3 straight years from 2017 to 2019. And remember, he came to this Ducati team when it was in a bad way. And people were thinking, well, if Valentino Rossi cannot strangle results out of this bike, what the heck is Andrea Dovizioso going to do when he's arguably not even the best dude on the Tech 3 team that he left to get there?
Yeah.
Well, what he did was he knuckled down, worked with the team in place, and eventually got into building the GP15, which was the real breakthrough bike. Didn't win a race, but damn, when we were watching it commit war crimes down the front straight at Phillip Island 2015,
oh yeah,
you knew the storm that was coming.
His teammate Andrea Iannone at the time, I think, that race at one point topped out at 350 kilometers an hour, which is about 217 in Queen's English. Well,
you remember when Iannone
the
won
greatest
first?
Race.
You remember when Iannone won first, and everybody was thinking, "Well, damn, did Ducati keep the right Andrea?" As it turns out, they did.
They did.
I mean, the other biggest shame for me is that his relationship with the team got so bad over time with the technical team at Ducati that for the last 2 years there, he wasn't even on speaking terms with them, despite still racking
leathers.
up the fun employed leathers. Despite the fact that, man was still the best rider, not named Mark, by a country mile.
Easy. If it wasn't for Marc Marquez, he wins 3 MotoGP World Championships and he's one of the greatest riders of all time. There is no doubt about that. He was the only man who could give prime Marc Marquez something to think about, and he beat him in many a one-on-one duel. I think it was 6 times they were on a final lap showdown. Dovizioso beat Marquez straight up. Just killer racecraft, disgustingly late on the brakes, and just playing with Marc Marquez and putting him exactly where he wants him. He was a genius in that regard. In fact, he was nicknamed the Professor during his riding career for his intelligence. He was a real, genuine rider's rider, and he had the respect of the entire paddock. He never crossed that line into dirty tactics or any of the ethics of bike racing conduct that we talk about, or maybe have written about sometimes every once in a while. But
he go out there, throw his leg over the bike, and put his best foot forward every single weekend. As long as you stay out of the Ducati garage, you will not find a person with a bad thing to say about Andrea Dovizioso.
None. I've not heard a bad word said against Dovi in besides Jorge Lorenzo, who was being a moany bitch at the time because Dovi didn't play team orders when he was competing for a championship. And to be fair, that was, I think, Lorenzo.
No, it was the other way. Yeah, it was the other way around because Lorenzo was the one who wouldn't play team orders.
Yeah, Lorenzo was being a dick, in other words, and I don't think that was in good faith at all. Besides that, I've never heard a bad word said against Dovi in 20 years of him being a bike racer, ever. And it's a shame he only has one more title to his name. He's one of the best riders of all time who was beaten only by the greatest riders of all time. And yeah, 15 wins in the top flight is nothing to scoff at. 3 times a championship runner-up. One of the most iconic one-on-one battlers in the history of this sport. And all-round good guy. Happy retirement, Andrea Dovizioso. See you on a motocross track some ways. And you know what? Think of it this way. You don't have to go on the flyaways. That's a huge plus.
You know what he could do? He could get back into DTM. He could drive some GT3 cars. Look, if Valentino Rossi could do it, I bet you he could make a solid living transition into 4 wheels. If he wants to.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on and let's talk about Marc Marquez.
Back.
We mocked the idea of Marc Marquez being back on a motorcycle anytime soon. Last week, we saw that there was rumors flying around that Marc Marquez was going to get to Misano and take part in the test, and we all thought Alberto Puig was on a gallon of LSD. We thought, what stupid idea was this? And, well, turns out he did get to Misano. Turns out the Mayo Clinic did sign him off. And turns out he did ride both days in the Misano test after the Grand Prix had finished. Rode over 100 laps over the course of the 2 days. And, yeah, the feeling in that camp, overwhelmingly positive.
The bone is fixed.
The bone, which, by the way, we found out, actually had a 34-degree bend in his humerus.
Oh my god!
For reference, the number of degrees of banking the Talladega Superspeedway's corners have is 33. He's just a little bit more than a Talladega Superspeedway's banking worth of rotation in that humerus.
That's
god damn.
Terrifying. That is terrifying. And yes, if his humerus had twisted 34 degrees, the bone is fixed. Now it's going to be a matter of getting the muscle strength back in his arm, because no matter what you do, there is nothing that can replicate the G-force and the work of the muscles that you have and the shapes that you throw off the bike when you're working on a motorcycle. There's nothing that compensates for that. So it's now going to be a game of when can Marquez get the strength back to ride again. I mean, Mark said himself he's eyeing up a race before the end of the season. The question I ask is, should he?
Well, if I'm Honda, I'm thinking we got to salvage something's left. Mark, if you can ride, could you please give us a little bit of something? Like, this championship's toast. We don't want to go completely sad. We had that happen when you missed the whole 2020 season.
Yeah. I think for this season, it's a bit of a wash no matter what, no matter when he comes back, just because one race isn't going to be enough to really get the muscles back in his arm working 100%. That's just going to be time and work. But laying the foundations for 2023, especially given you got to do something with this bike, and you're resetting at least half of your rider lineup with both Mir and Rins coming in.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some kind of baseline that they can work with riders who are actually staying there for 2023. Oh, and if he can somehow BS that bike into the top, I don't know. If he could get a top 5 out of that, I may just have to just drop to my knees and worship.
Well, to be fair, he did earlier this season. He was right around that range before the arm surgery. So it's doable.
I mean, with no muscle in his arm, he was the fastest Honda at the test.
Wouldn't he have been the fastest qualifier out of all the Hondas at the best time that he set was done during qualifying for the race?
I think with track conditions that pretty much everyone went faster than qualifying. So yes, but also not really. But irrespective of that, still fastest Honda during the test over Pol Espargaro, who is just had enough of everything HRC is right now. He is done. He wants out.
Mm-hmm.
So of course he's going to KTM.
Far less painful. Yeah, he said that Honda straight up isn't working hard enough after that crash at Misano. He was collected in, unfortunately. Not Pol's fault, but you could tell he's had enough. He can't wait to ride that gas next year instead. And yeah, fair play to Alex Marquez. He did end up in the top 10. It was, I think his best result of the year so far. But it was also Honda's first top 10 in the last 5 races.
Oh my God, sweet succulent points.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
We are now celebrating when Honda gets points. This is a weird timeline.
This is the point that Repsol Honda has fallen to in 2022.
It wasn't even Repsol. He was the satellite bike beating the factory.
And let's not forget that, they had to they are literally outsourcing their swing arms to Kalex. Which is huge deal.
They outsourced an aluminum swing arm to Kalex, the Moto2, Moto3 chassis gurus. And we talked about this the last time we attempted to record this. Honda has never done that. Ever. They have not, as far as I can tell, going back in the history between, the current bikes, back to the start of the 4-strokes, back all the way through the 2-strokes, and the funny oval piston bike. They had never outsourced such a major chassis component of the bike. And even back to their stint from, the late 60s back to when they started Grand Prix racing. On the motorcycle side, they had never done this. That is how deep HRC's shit is.
It's also weird just thinking of a top-tier factory squad just outsourcing parts from a Moto2 and Moto3 team. It'd be like if a top NASCAR team like Joe Gibbs Racing or Hendrick Motorsports was struggling, and so they had to outsource parts from an Xfinity or Truck Series team.
Well, funny you mention that. There are stories of that throughout the years, but Kalex is damn good at what they do. I mean, if you were a factory and you were coming in just as an engine supplier, Kalex might not be bad to tie up with. So they know what they're doing.
They do.
We just need to see whether HRC does.
I mean, the way I see it, take a few rounds out, maybe Phillip Island.
I think that ultimately it's up to him and it's up to his doctors, because a test is not a race weekend.
No.
And then the other thing is as well, and Dre, we had talked about this before as well. HRC has to be terrified right now, because Mark has openly said, if I don't get a win, if I don't have a winning project, I'm going to look elsewhere.
Yeah, he said straight up, I need a winning project. And Marc Marquez hits free agency at the end of next season.
And remember, they're going to have more races pretty soon. He's not going to be asking for no pay reduction on his next deal. Or should he?
Which is hilarious.
Go on, Dre.
Go on, Cam. Yeah, go on, Cam. You're good.
Not when he, with 1.2 arms, is still the fastest rider on that bike.
Yeah. If anything, it might be easier for them if Joan Mir finds a way to actually get close to his level. We have to wait and see on that front. But it's a tense time at Honda, certainly, and I think there's a lot of people whose jobs are lining up on this, and you need, you're gonna need to restore some faith in the whole operation, because if you don't, you could be in some trouble. That's certainly one to keep an eye on.
And who will be a hotter free agent in recent memory than Marc Marquez?
He will have the entire sport lining up to sign him. Good luck.
The whole thing.
Kawasaki might even consider just starting a program fuck it, we'll come back if we could get Mark. Suzuki, we want to redo.
we'll do the Eddie Jordan. Ayrton, I'll give you half the team to come join us.
MV Augusta is making the step up again.
We don't talk about that.
Husqvarna.
Oh Lord.
BMW Sutter.
Running out of sub fans here. No, that's funny. Okay. Let's talk about the other end of the scale here as well, because
speaking of things that will be received greatly.
Oh God, more moral bankruptcy.
That's right. They're not the first. It probably won't be the last, but MotoGP has signed a letter of understanding that they plan to race in Saudi Arabia at a brand new purpose-built circuit in Jeddah. Not the Corniche circuit.
Thank God for that. Oh my
Jesus.
With plans to develop the area for residents. Formula One's done it. Formula E does it. Extreme E does it. And then, of course, there is, the entirety of Live Golf, which is basically a sovereign wealth fund. It is blatantly the most sovereign wealth fund form of sport that there is. And they still couldn't get Tiger Woods to jump for $1 billion, but that's neither here nor there. I know what we're thinking. This ain't great that we're going here in the future. And I don't think we're all surprised here, but let's talk about it. Let's wrap.
Not surprised. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's the fairest way of summing this up. In that, if you didn't see this coming, you're crazy. If anything, MotoGP is late to the wagon in terms of taking that Saudi money. We all know they have a $400 billion fund to, raise the profile of sports in their country, as we call it, sports washing. And I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, I'm disappointed. Spa was on the table, for God's sake.
Spa's on the table. They renovated the whole track just to get bikes to show up, and they may lose their Formula One race for it.
Oh, yeah. Like, it is wild, and it disappoints me. Like, it's
like, to be certain, of course, our problem is not with like the general populace of Saudi Arabia. Our problem is with the upper 1% of 1% of 1% that control.
We have
all
a problem
with
the people oppressing those people on the ground.
Yeah. See also any Republican stronghold in the United States. I mean, it's funny because like this comes out like just days removed from the whole hubbub about we're introducing sprint races. We are dressing down reporters for suggesting that this is a terrible idea. And then we're releasing the poll results of that fan survey that show that like, actually nobody really wants this. But they'll watch it anyway.
It's Cam, what's the phrase by Mark Twain?
There are liars, there's lies, damned lies, and statistics.
And I stand by this. If you're going out of your way to fill in a 15-minute survey on MotoGP on social media, you are one of the most hardcore 1% of fans that will probably watch MotoGP no matter what form of the product is on television.
You will watch the sprint races because, hey, it's another race. You will probably watch the Saudi Arabian MotoGP rounds because, I mean, they've raced in Qatar before, and those races generally very good to great.
And if you're listening to us, chances are you're watching. Like, let's be frank, so we are the most hardcore. Our opinions don't really matter as much because we're going to watch anyway. The one that irks me is that you claim you want to grow that women 18 to 34 demographic. You want young women to watch your product. You are alienating half your potential audience by letting Pecco Bagnaia race with a Dennis Rodman tribute helmet and then taking on Saudi Arabia, where we all know women have been oppressed in that country for decades. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? How tone deaf do you look right now? I mean, again, I say this as someone who has butted heads with people that are very high ranking within MotoGP, and there's a tinge of regret that comes with that, but I'm no longer as afraid of speaking out about how I feel about this series, and I've held this back for quite a long time regarding this because I've tried to give MotoGP the benefit of the doubt. Formula One at least pretends to give a shit about deeper societal problems, and a lot of that is carried off the backs of Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, by all accounts. MotoGP is morally bankrupt. It just is. Like this,
the one top class rider who actively gives a shit could be run out of the sport in short amount of time because he's suffered an injury that he can't come back from.
Yeah, that's Frankie Morbidelli, who has a black mother back home in Brazil and been one of the very, very few to speak out on deeper societal issues. He said himself he was
like the only.
Yeah, like seeming like he openly said he was inspired by Lewis Hamilton to start using his platform to speak out more. Johan Mir has done it very briefly, to be fair, as well, but it's not much out of that camp. And, I said before, Formula One is genuinely trying to make an effort in terms of diversity, and the progress is slow, but it's getting there. I can see what they're trying to do with this. MotoGP doesn't give a shit. Yes, they tweeted out Black Lives Matter when George Floyd was murdered, but then how many people of color do you know that are in MotoGP?
There's only one black rider of any creed or nationality that is in the ladder to begin with.
Yeah, Josh Wheatley in Moto3, and he only debuted this year. And he's only getting the attention he's really getting in the UK because he's British, and because our national broadcaster here absolutely loves him, and their team boss Michael Laverty is a pundit on the broadcasts, which is a huge conflict of interest. But here we are. And Francis Bradfield, who's done work with Michelin as a tyre supply, he was taking a knee during the national anthem 2 years ago during the pandemic, and he was the only one doing so. And that made me very sad. But I turned a blind eye to a lot of that. I thought, hey, maybe the sport will get its shit together. Nope. They've done that. They've buddied up with
full hog in the other direction, it feels like.
Well, yeah, and if anything, they've fully embraced crypto. They've fully embraced the funny money, as we've called it on this show before. You know, they were doing coins with they were doing Bitcoin deals with track sponsors.
Were they doing that before the great AMC pump and dump that seemed to get like everybody into crypto by the end?
Yes. They were one of the first sports on the wagon. Like,
man, how long is that gonna last?
Yeah,
they leapt on that wagon pretty much the same time the Formula One team started to dabble with it.
Yeah, you know, they used their image to sell NFTs. Last year, I spoke to people within Formula One who were shocked at how fast MotoGP turned that round. People that I know work in Formula One and were considering going down the NFT road themselves, and well, before their plan blew up in their face spectacularly regarding NFT value, but they had no problem having digital collectibles. They've had no problem dabbling with Bitcoin, and now you're racing in Saudi Arabia. Like, come on, guys. Like, the series is just morally bankrupt. And look, we're hypocrites to a degree. We're all going to watch. We're all still going to watch.
Racing's good.
Racing is... Look, the product is overall great. This has been a bit of a down year for GP. They're starting to find their feet again. But we watch it because we love their product. And it's just a shame that there's so much bullshit that comes with that irks me as a fan of the product. I mean, again, Silverstone, there was racism in the paddock, and it went unreported outside of the Twitter account of Simon Patterson and his fiance. You know, it's there's so many little eagles that just make me think this series doesn't give a shit about its place in the world. I don't think we're in a luxurious place anymore where you can separate sport and politics. You can't. Not in 2022.
No.
And it's incredibly frustrating that arguably my favorite motorsport series leans this way. And there's no getting around that. It's very frustrating.
Because we'd like more people to get into this stuff, right? But, you know, sometimes they just don't give people the incentive to want to jump on board.
No.
Unless you can really compartmentalize. And for some people, that is harder than others.
Yeah.
Well, when the politics that people want to keep out of sports are killing people, it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah. Where you want, like, as I've always said, where you want to draw your moral line is ultimately up to you. We can't tell you where that line is. Only you can figure that line out. But I can't sit here in good conscience and good faith and say this is a great series to get into if you're activist leaning, if you're the sort of person that wants to get on the internet and understandably back activist causes. This is not the sporting series for you. And don't get me wrong, there's not many good ones in this way of life in 2022, but that's just us being honest with you as viewers and listeners and consumers of our products. That, look, this series is morally bankrupt, and it's got a long, long way to go before it changes anyone's minds on that, if you've been paying attention for the last 3 or 4 years or so.
Please like our silly sport.
That's been the theme of the week. Please like my dumb sports. IndyCar, Formula One, MotoGP, you fucking name it. It's been please like my dumb series. Left, right, and center. Should we get out of here? I think we should get out of here. MotoGP is back in 2 weeks' time at Aragon. Should be a fascinating round. Like I said, Quartararo hates it. Bagnaia loves it. We could be getting another big swing in the title fight. We'll have to wait and see. We'll also have the Formula One Italian Grand Prix. That'll be next up for 395 for us. But yeah, basically find us one more time. YouTube, Facebook, Motorsport 101, Twitter, Motorsport_101, personal handles at Harrison101HD, at CBuckley917, at RJ O'Connell, Instagram, Motorsport 101 Pod, website, motorsport101.com, patreon.com/Motorsport 101. Until next time, embrace the ketchup and mustard F1 car. Until then, I've been Dre Harrison. They've been RJ O'Connell and Cam Buckley. Until then, sayonara.
Later, y'all.
Please like our dumb podcast.
Please do.
Please like our dumb podcast. It's almost 400 episodes. Oh my God. What the fuck? We're hitting another century.